Yo, what's up, Poster fam, and members of both SmugStick and Mondo fan bases. Welcome to the second part of the What If Relay, a crazy idea for a collaboration I had that these two were just crazy enough to go along with, so huge thanks to the both of them. So instead of recapping part 1, here's a link to Mondo's video in the iCard and the description below, so definitely go and check those out before watching mine, because there's way too much for little old me to recap by myself. That said, I do want to say that the general rule we set for this series was, the filler can change the story, and all filler doesn't have to play out in the same circumstances. With that said and done, we can enter back into the story, where we find Gohan, Pigoro, and Bulma on their way to planet Namek to pick up the pieces after the bloody battle with the Saiyans and revive their dead friends. The fully filler episode, episode number 36, brings these guys in contact with a group of orphan children, led by the equivalent of Pigoro, but in space, or as he's actually known, Zeshin. This encounter wouldn't change much, aside from Pigoro replacing Krillin, and really identifying with the plight of these children, since they have very similar backgrounds. He and Gohan also quickly come to hate the name Frieza. Because of this shared past, Pigoro feels very sorry for these kids, and decides to give them directions to Earth. And I think they would decide to take this offer, instead of going to their original destination, since the Earth is likely closer. Because the group takes this time to give coordinates and directions to Earth, Bulma is able to hear the full warning of what the shortcut the group takes in the original filler entails. And because of this, I think Bulma decides it's much safer to just go ahead with the route Kami's ship had already charted. Zeshin's group doesn't argue about this, and they simply say their goodbyes and leave. This little detour probably slowed the group down from their Canon arrival time by a solid 2 to 3 hours, and as such, they will arrive on Namek 2 hours later. Back on Earth, we see another change caused by filler. Goku, while hospitalized for the 6 months of travel to Namek, is shown training against the wishes of his doctor. This is seen in episodes number 36 and number 42, and because of this, I don't think it's illogical to infer that Goku did this for the entire 6 months. Because of this, after applying the average Zenkai boost of 1.33 times to Goku's power level at the end of Mondo's part, which was 13,000, we get 17,290, and with this extra training, we decided to round him to a full 18,000, making him equal to the first Canon power level of Vegeta. Goku's given his Sensu Bean and blasts off to Namek after his friends, but in this case, he does have to repair his ship like he does in episode number 50. Other than this, we actually see all his training, and as such we'll be able to give him a more solid power increase. Because the actual power increase that Goku got in Canon was a bit under 9 times, we will award him a full 9 times here, and bring him up to 162,000 power level when he arrives on Namek. Return to Gohan and his crew. Their 2-hour delay spells catastrophe for Dende and the members of his village. Because an angry Gohan does not interfere, Dende is not saved in this timeline, and is killed by Dodoria. But Muri does still destroy all the scouters Frieza and his men have, so the Ginyu Force are still called to bring more. This also means that Dodoria is still alive, since he did not run into Vegeta. We also get to see how Vegeta ends up with his first Namekian Dragon Ball in episode 50 and 51. And at some point, I believe he'll run to either Zarbon or Dodoria, while looking for the Dragon Balls. And if the latter, he loses like in Canon and is brought to Frieza's ship for healing and questioning, where he will probably enact a very similar plan to what he does in Canon. Thankfully, Gohan and the others do have the Dragon Radar, and because of this, they're able to see that all but one of the Dragon Balls has been collected, and decide to head that way, taking Bulma with them instead of leaving her, since in this timeline, they don't know the full grasp of the situation, and don't want to put her in danger. Led there by the Dragon Radar, the group arrives to Lord Guru's house, where they meet Nail and the Guardian of Namek. They are then deemed worthy of receiving the Dragon Ball, after Gohan has his mind read by Guru, and all 3 of them end up having their potential unlocked. Note that the power increase of Bulma probably wouldn't make her any stronger than a 40 to 50 power level. But we thought it'd be a very interesting idea that the potential increase could actually increase her intelligence as well. This isn't observed in any other character in canon, but we believe that Bulma's true potential lies in her mind, and Guru would probably realize this after Bulma claims that she isn't a warrior. To make it a numerical value, if Bulma's intelligence was a stat, and let's say it was a 10 before this, afterwards it'd be a 25. After this power boost, Pigoro initially goes to a 7,000 power level, and Gohan to a 13,000. Vegeta, having already stolen all of Frieza's Dragon Balls, and possibly killed Zarbon or Dodoria, or even both, senses the power spike, and tracks down the young fighters. Even if he were to decide to try and fight them, Nail is also there, and way stronger than him. And besides that, he can currently feel the Ginyu Force approaching, and like in Canon, ends up striking a deal with Gohan and Pigoro, though he finally notices that Gohan has his tail, and gets an idea, filling the 2 in on the way back to where he hit the Dragon Balls. As in Canon, they end up running into the Ginyu Force, and the battle with Gudo doesn't have many changes to it as well. That said, Recoome is a totally different fight. Vegeta begins the battle with the Graceful Bruiser, and around the time that Recoome begins to set up for his Recoome Eraser Gun, instead of needing to be saved by Gohan and Pigoro, he yells out to Gohan that it was now time to finally look up. Curious as to why Vegeta said this, the Ginyu Force look up in unison with Gohan. Realizing that Namek didn't have a son, that bastard Vegeta had made a power ball, they didn't even realize it. Raccoon realizes the full brunt of this danger and begins to try and beat on the growing Gohan, who at this point will receive the same about 40% increase to his counterpart in Canon. That took him from a 10,000 power level to a 14,000, except here he goes from a 13,000 to about a 18,000, making his grade 8 form a 180,000 power level, far above any of the Ginyu Force. Luckily for them, the Ginyu Force are aware of the Grapes Achilles' heel. Raccoon, Jace, and Bird begin to try and fly behind the monkey and cut the tail off, but are surprised when they see that Vegeta and Pigoro are hanging onto the fur in the middle of Gohan's back, where the ape could not reach them or swat them away. Anytime they would try to approach the tail, Pigoro and Vegeta would blast him in the face with all they had. This combined attack was not enough to kill them, but it was enough to drive them off for a few seconds, and that's all that was needed before Gohan would swipe them away with his big paws. Raccoon, finally getting sick of this particular song and dance, lands on the ground to prepare for his ultimate maneuver, the Raccoon Ultra Fighting Bomber. He begins to do the oh-so-important motions and chant, but then he hears a call from Jace to look out, and looks up too late to see Gohan's massive foot coming straight down on him with wide eyes. Seeing the gross puddle that used to be their teammate, Jace and Birder realize they are down 2 men and in dire straits, and begin to use a similar maneuver to what they did against Goku in the anime to confuse their opponent. Finally, Birder is able to blitz the warriors hanging on to Gohan's back, and Jace makes the cut on his tail with the Ki Blast. The young hybrid falls out of the transformation, and Pigoro, always a good friend, tries to protect him, but the situation looks very dire. Fortunately, Gohan's rampage had bought enough time, more than in Canon, and Goku reveals that he had arrived around the time Raccoon had died. He gives the fight a timeout, and then administers Senzu Beans, and easily defeats both Jace and Birder, where Vegeta does it with the bodies, and gets chided by Goku for being so brutal, before he flies off to take on Ginyu and take the Dragon Balls back, Goku and the others following right behind him. The Z-Fighters then arrive to Frieza's ship, and find Ginyu guarding the Dragon Balls while dancing. Now, as any what-if story, it doesn't have to go exactly the way we argue. Goku, being so much stronger than in Canon, could really easily defeat Captain Ginyu if he went all out. But we decided against this, and as such, the battle with Captain Ginyu would go the exact same. The Body Snatcher does what he's best at, and takes Goku's body, and in this timeline, he would be even more interested in Goku's body, since he'd be stronger than him even without the Kaioken. That said, Ginyu only having a quarter of Goku's power in this timeline puts him at a power level over 40,000. In episode number 73, Gohan defeats your dad, Ginyu is shown to be adapting to Goku's body. This is filler, so Pigoro and Gohan have an even harder time dealing with Ginyu, but Vegeta easily handles it. Goku is then able to get his body back and show off his great throwing arm when he intercepts Ginyu's change now with the Namekian frog. Afterwards, Vegeta realizes the extent of the damage he put on Goku's body and puts him in a healing pod, realizing that he'd be a pretty good help against Frieza if it came down to that. He then gives Gohan and Pigoro new battle armor, and Gohan really needs new clothes after his growth spurt from the Ozaru form. Yeah, fighting his dad in his birthday suit was not gonna be a very fond memory for him. Aside from this, Vegeta still decides to take a nap, and Gohan decides he'll be the one to go out and find a Namekian to help them get the Dragon Balls to work. Back with Nail, Bulma, and Lord Guru, Frieza arrives to Guru's abode, like in Canon, and confronts them. But unlike in Canon, there are 3 more warrior Namekians that show up to stop Frieza, all with a power level of around 10,000. Unfortunately for these guys, there are nothing more but flies to Frieza, and he swats them away with an attack we never see from him again. But Nail realizes that he needs to distract Frieza as long as he can, and walks over to the almost dead bodies of his brethren. It's sad in Nail to do this, and he can almost hear the voice of Guru in the back of his mind telling him not to do this. But desperate times call for desperate measures. He touches all 3 bodies and activates the ultimate ability of the Namekian race, and fuses with them. We as a group decided a decent multiplier for this fusion would be a 7.5 times increase in Nail's base, meaning each Namekian is worth a 2.5 increase alone. This was decided number 1 because they are very near death, number 2 they are much weaker than Nail, and number 3 they are not all the same figure or body type. This power boost shoots Nail up to a 315,000 power level, and he tells Frieza that if he is able to best him in combat, then he would serve under Frieza and help him summon the dragon. This was an obvious lie to Guru and Bulma, but Frieza only laughs, thinking that once Nail had served his purpose, he would kill him, since he'd be immortal and all. Nail then communicates with Guru in his mind, and tells him that he'll distract Frieza while the Earthling ran to her friends. Hopefully they could get in contact with one of them, and they would come pick her up. Guru didn't like this plan, but knew it was viable. With her increased intelligence, they had been able to tutor Bulma in the Namekian language to the degree of fluency. He then begins to try and get in contact with Gohan or Pigoro as Nail leads Frieza away to have their battle, while Bulma begins her long run towards Frieza's ship. With Nail much more powerful than in Canon, he's able to better hold up against Frieza and entertain the tyrant longer, as well as stay in better fighting condition when Frieza finally finishes his torture of him. Guru then telepathically informs Nail that Bulma had been picked up by Gohan. So with a smirk, the Namekian finally tells Frieza what was really going on, and in anger, Frieza shoots Nail through the chest with a death beam, expecting this to be fatal, and flies away, unaware that Namekian vitality increases the more one fuses. When Gohan and Bulma land back at Frieza's ship, the Z-Fighters instantly jump to summon the dragon, and with her new Namekian language skills, the blue-haired genius is easily able to do it. They then make the wish to revive Piccolo and bring to Namek. Though that said, this is all happening later than in canon, so as soon as Piccolo is transported to Namek, Guru sadly passes away. Vegeta wakes up around the same time as in canon and begins angrily yelling at Gohan and Piccolo, right when Frieza arrives and confronts the group. Again, facing an opponent that is much stronger than them, their shaky alliance is reaffirmed, and they begin to battle against Frieza, though this goes about as in canon. But during this fight, Bulma seeks cover in Frieza's ship. There, she finds Goku's healing tank, and with her increased intelligence, begins to try and modify the machine to be more efficient and effective, increasing its ability to heal by 20%, and leaving Goku with only a few more minutes of needed healing. Without even knowing it, the group only needs to hold off Frieza for 48 minutes in this timeline, and as such, they are still able to push Frieza to the point of needing to transform to his second form. But after they do, the tyrant begins to dominate the fight again. Thankfully, before any fatal blows land, Piccolo and an almost fully healed Nail arrive on the battlefield and begin to join in on the assault on Frieza. With two new warriors, the Z-Fighter is able to work together in a combined assault, and really overwhelm Frieza's second form, forcing him into his third form, and about this time, Nail realized that fusing with Piccolo could definitely be the edge they needed to take out their opponent. Like in canon, Piccolo is instantly against fusing, but then Nail informs him that since Piccolo is the smallest bit stronger than Nail, he would still be the dominant personality. This is enough to get Piccolo to agree, and the result is a Namekian warrior made up of much stronger warriors than in canon. This is able to push Frieza to fully transform into his final form. I would actually place this Piccolo at about a 3 million power level right now. This causes Frieza to use a little under 3% of his power while he toys with his opponent, but this also buys time for Goku, and 47 minutes later, the warrior breaks out of his healing tank and flies out to face Frieza. If we give Goku a similar Zenkai to what he gained in canon, a 33.3 times boost, then he jumps up to a 5.4 million power level base. Too bad for him, 5% Frieza is easily able to trump this. But Goku does still have an ace in the hole, the Kaioken times 20, which in this timeline pushes his power level to that of over 100 million, which really scares Frieza, as he now has to use 90% of his power just to contend with Goku. Sensing the immediate danger in the situation, Frieza decides to go ahead and power up to his 100% and destroy this planet and leave. This is too much trouble for too little reward. Goku, catching on to Frieza's plan, decides to implement his strategy to use the Spirit Bomb, and has his friends try and distract Frieza for as long as they can, which wouldn't be very long at all. But at his current power level, even a non-fully charged Spirit Bomb would still do a lot of damage to Frieza, and so Goku uses one of those instead of one of the giant ones. The technique that Goku learned from King Kai is able to blast Frieza into space, ending the battle. Everyone begins to celebrate. Even Bulma comes out of Frieza's ship to celebrate as well, and she even tells Vegeta that he did a good job and stopped being so grumpy, making the Saiyan scoff at her. This cheerful celebration is however halted when Bulma is lifted into the air and soon blows up, and the angry form of Frieza appears in the sky. We all agree that Goku losing his first ever friend would be a suitable replacement to losing his best friend, and as such, Goku fulfills the legends and becomes a Super Saiyan. Though this version of Goku as a Super Saiyan is way over Frieza, and I think here the timeline pretty much returns to as normal, in terms of things like Frieza making the planet blow up in 5 minutes, and the people killed on Namek being revived and then transported to Earth, other than Goku and Frieza of course. Now here's our major change of the arc. Even though Goku is stronger than Frieza, he wastes too much time like in canon, toying with Frieza so the fight lasts as long as in canon. But you can definitely argue that Goku gets bored faster than in canon and kills Frieza than in there. The problem is that there is one completely filler episode, number 102. Because this really happens here in this timeline, the 5 minutes run out and Namek explodes with Goku still on it. Frieza survives the explosion in the same condition as in canon, but Goku has died on Namek, and this is where the Namek saga ends in this timeline. Other than this, the Ginyu Force and the human Z-Fighters have a canon fight on King Kai's planet. That said, we think that easily beating someone who put a brutal beat down on a version of Vegeta that was stronger than the Vegeta that they met on Earth, who was stronger than Nappa who killed them, would bolster the Earthlings' confidence. This speaks to the Earthlings that they don't have to be too far behind the Saiyans as long as they train hard. There's also the factor of Nam and Krillin being there to be extra training partners, which would make everybody stronger. The next 624 days involve the Z-Fighters making the same wishes as they do in canon, with Goku refusing to be revived as he wanted to finish figuring out how to do the Super Saiyan thing on command. There was also something he wanted to check out in Hell. Gohan also has to take on Garlic Jr. in a rematch, with Piccolo and Krillin at his sides, but I doubt this would be extremely different from the actual filler. It does however result in Gohan earning a Zenkai when all is said and done, since he got beaten up very bad in that filler. Marin is also canon in this timeline. but I doubt her relationship with Krillin lasts. But hey, maybe Yonce could rebound off her since she does like Bulma, and the two would flirt with each other in the filler. As for Vegeta, since he knows exactly where Goku is, instead of going out to look for him in space, or even dying to go see him in another world, he decides to go and fulfill his own destiny and find King Cold out in space and take him down. This just seemed like the most likely path since Vegeta was number 1, alive when he sees Goku turn into a Super Saiyan, and number 2, saw just how much stronger Goku had gotten through his training. This lights a fire under Vegeta and really pushes hard on the Goku button for him. The Saiyan Prince commissions a ship from Bulma, the same made for Goku, but with a stronger gravity machine, and with her increased intelligence, she's able to make this very quickly. He begins to train on his way to the former location of planet Namek, hoping to find King Cold there. Vegeta would double Goku's training, and if he reaches the power level of 4 to 5 million, he could easily take out King Cold if he's able to achieve Super Saiyan. He ends up finding the Frost Demons and sees Frieza is currently being repaired. In a battle with King Cold, he is beaten down roughly, and King Cold makes a mistake of mentioning how much enjoyment he got from making a fool out of Vegeta's monkey daddy and the entire Saiyan race. He then gloats that the Saiyan race would end one by one, and this is enough to force Vegeta to also become a Super Saiyan, where he defeats King Cold and kills the recovering Frieza. Back in Otherworld, Goku visits Cell to see if his father and Raditz were still there, and maybe see if he could fight Frieza once again to see if he could coax that Super Saiyan power out of his body again.
Yo, Raditz! Dad, are you guys here? Stop yelling, boy. Did you die again? Kakarot, you're starting to disappoint me. Yeah, I did die, but you'll never guess who I died fighting against. That Frieza guy Dad mentioned. What? You fought him? Damn, I was hoping you'd be the one to take him down. Wait, he isn't here? You haven't seen him? Damn that Vegeta! He killed me! There he is. You aren't supposed to be here. Leave now or you'll be stuck.
Goku is able to sense how strong this guy is and asks if he would train with him, but the man gives him a once-over and only laughs, telling him he was nowhere near the strength he needed to be for a spar and to leave. Goku does so sadly, but asks the name of the man first, to which he is told, Pikkon. On the 625th day, Goku is revived and there's a party held at Capsule Corp to celebrate the now well-earned peace. Even Vegeta had apparently been forced to come by Bulma after he had returned to Earth, though he came back partly because Bulma mentioned Goku would be coming back that day. This party is however crashed by Trunks, who gives the warning of the androids to Goku, who gets everyone to start their training here. Our changes here are that Vegeta has both discovered Super Saiyan and his love for gravity training earlier. This means that the events of episode 125 do not happen the same for Vegeta. There's also Piccolo and Nam being there for the 3 years of training as well. Piccolo probably joining with Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan, since Gohan and Piccolo are the only people he's ever trained with. Icarus is also canon, and Goku and Piccolo attempt to and fail to get their licenses in episode 126. That said, Goku is later shown driving, so let's say that they try again and pass that time. Since he's canon in this timeline, Bulma could possibly seek out Dr. Flap to hopefully ask him for info on the Red Ribbon Army android program. And I think due to this, he becomes a member of the Scientific Z Fighters, made up of Bulma and Dr. Briefs, simply adding more brain power and more money to Capsule Corp with his inventions. Now, because Dr. Gero would have monitored the Z Fighters up until their departure to Namek and seen how much stronger they are, the androids in this timeline would also be stronger, so it kind of evens out. So based on that, we decided that nothing from the battle with Gero in 19 to Vegeta and Trunks versus Cell will be changed, though it could definitely go a different way if you really want to argue it. We match up with the canon timeline until the decision to make use of the Room of Spirit and Time is made. Here, I think since the humans feel a bit more motivated to train, they may use the room after the Saiyans are done, causing them to grow stronger than their Cell game counterparts. But again, this really doesn't make a huge change in the timeline. Our only major change during the Cell Saga comes when Gohan as a Super Saiyan 2 is fighting against Cell and knocks Android 18 out of Cell. Here, Cell makes his throat to explode, but since Goku does not have instant transmission, he realizes that the time has come for him to sacrifice himself, and it would not be as easy as transporting him somewhere else this time. Assuming Cell wouldn't blow up upon contact, like he did when Goku transported him away in canon, the Saiyan walks forward and bulks up into the Grade 3 Super Saiyan form, bigger than even Trunks had gotten. Cell gives Goku a weird look, saying he'd already proven that form is useless, and Goku chides that it was only useless in straight combat, but the strength it granted was very useful. He then wraps his arms around Cell and begins to try and lift the big bio-android up into the air, and while he gets him off the ground a bit, Cell gloats that he still hadn't saved the Earth yet. His blast would still destroy it. Goku then roars out. Cell didn't get it. Goku didn't plan on coming back from this. He yells out, Kaioken, and the bulky Saiyan speeds all the way up into the air, but he can feel his body about to explode any minute now. But thankfully, he reached orbit and Cell explodes harmlessly in the atmosphere. We all know that Cell simply regenerates and flies back down to Earth, stronger than ever. But the timeline matches up again, almost completely. Goku tells everyone that he'd like to stay dead, as there is someone he wanted to train against. But this Plus Ultra fam is where I'll be leaving my part of the What If Relay off for now. Again, massive love to SmugStick and Mondo Cool for working with me on this What If Relay. And big love to Mondo for lending his voices and helping me with the little raccoon getting squashed animation you saw earlier. Be sure to check out Smug's part so you can end this timeline. And definitely subscribe to both these content creators, because really and truly, they are much better than I am, and they deserve so much more attention than what they're already getting. Other than that, there's nothing else for me to say, but always go beyond Plus Ultra. See you guys next time.